those who are. So welcome to the national webinar on education, the Indian way or the Western way. Let us keep silence for the prayer for a minute. Thank you. May I once again request everybody to mute except those who are about to speak. So for the welcome address, may I invite the Senior Vice President of TMA, the Managing Director and CEO of WOS Group, Engineer Vinod Manjila. Vinod,
good evening all. Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you. President of TMA, Dr. VM Xavier. Chief guest of the day, Dr. Sajimon Antony, the General Secretary of FOKANA, Federation of Kerala Association in Northern America. Vice President of TMA, Mr. Paul Thomas, Honorable Secretary, Mr. Pratap Worki, General Secretary, Engineer Francis George, Treasurer, CA Shaji PJ, Chairman of 11th TMA High Trend Business Plan Contest, CA M. Manoj Kumar, CEO of TMA and MC for the day, CA Geo Job, and my dear friends. The President of TMA has chosen relevant topics that is most crucial in this pandemic times. We all know one of the sectors that has been badly hit is the education sector. In fact, there's been a lot of debate on having a relook at this sector. And our president has got more than 40 years experience in the sector and is a veteran. Welcome, dear President, Dr. VM Xavier, to this session.
Thank you. Thank you.
As part of my job, I get opportunity to interact with many Malayali friends abroad. And on a lighter note, they say, if there is one Malayali, there is one association. But if there are two, there are four associations. FOKANA is one association which brings all the association, Kerala Malayali associations under one umbrella. They do a lot of good to the community. They've been closely working with the government during the flood relief and during the COVID in helping the Kerala community. Dr. Sajimon Antony is very active in FOKANA and is a regular face in many TV discussions. Welcome, Dr. Sajimon Antony, to this session. He'll be speaking on the topic education, the Indian way or the Western way. I would also like to extend a warm welcome to the office bearers of TMA, the past presidents of TMA, the MC members and members of TMA, the invited guests, student chapter members. Hope you have deep insights to this topic today. Thank you.
Thank you, Engineer Vinod Manjila, for that nice and brief welcome address. Now for the presidential address, may I invite Dr. VM Xavier, the President of Thrissur Management Association.
Good evening and good morning to the chief guest. Chief guest of this day, Dr. Sajimon Antony, General Secretary of FOKANA, USA. Senior Vice President, Engineer Vinod Manjila. Vice President, Mr. K. Paul Thomas. Secretary, Honorary Secretary, Mr. Pratap Worki. Joint Secretary, Engineer Francis George. Treasurer, CA Shaji PJ. Student Chapter Convener, CA Manoj Kumar. CEO Geo Job. Past Presidents of TMA in his operations. And another gentleman is Mr. K. Paul Thomas, who could generate a gross profit of 416 crores. His bank is not listed, but before that he could make that much profit. And both of them are the MC members of TMA. And Mr. V.P. Vandakumar was the past president of TMA, and Mr. Paul Thomas is the vice president of TMA. So we are really proud of these two legends, especially they are the MC members of TMA. So on behalf of TMA, we extend our congratulations to both of these two great people. Today, we have got a very wonderful program by our Dr. Sajimon Antony about the education India way or Western way. Very interesting topic. This is the third program during this month. As we know, we had a function, we had a meeting, webinar on health and happiness in association with Alert Academy, not Alert Academy, this Bankers Club. And also we had, last week we had the program by CEO of SBI, Mr. Dixon, on relevance of corporate social responsibility. Today we have Dr. Sajimon, and on 30th we have another program, that is the inauguration of Student Chapter at KU, where CATS and Drama will be our chief guest. Again, during this month we had the selection of best TMA TR Raghavan Memorial Best Management Student Award, and also TMA Heightened Business Plan Contest. And our three judges, Mr. Ramaswamy, Engineer Ananda Bedod, and Engineer Gopalakrishnan, they were spending a lot of time for the selection of the best management student as well as the TMA Heightened Business Plan Contest winners. The contest, TMA Heightened Business Plan Contest winners, they will be announced very shortly, immediately after this talk. And all the students performed very well in both the cases. And the convener of that program, or chairman of that program, Mr. C.A. Manoj Kumar, will be announcing the result today. And we, in fact, we had thought of conducting this award night yesterday, but unfortunately the COVID-19 has spoiled all our plans. Even South Indian Bank was ready to sponsor whatever amount we demanded from them to conduct this program, but unfortunately we couldn't do that. We hope we'll be able to conduct two programs either next month or in July. That is the award night as well as the convention. The chief guests are on the way. They are ready to come at any time, but unfortunately the COVID-19 is not permitting us to conduct it in a physical form. And the awards will be presented in the award night, and all the award winners will be coming there. And in this context, I want to tell our students a small request. On that day, we wish to conduct a program where the students can sing songs, and that will be played in that award ceremony hall. So you can sing a song by so many people, say one line by one student. So a song will be sung by 6 persons or 7 persons. That way you can organize. So we'll be taking the call from all colleges, and the best will be displayed there. And also you can have some dance programs also in the same manner. That dance program will be again played in the award distribution hall. My dear friends, today I don't want to take much of our valuable time. Our senior, our chief guest, Dr. Sajimon Antony, is there. He is talking from US. We have to thank our Francis John, Engineer Francis John, Joint Secretary, who helped us to connect Dr. Sajimon Antony. And as we know, when some ministers go from Kerala to US, or some big businessmen go to USA, or even ordinary people go to USA, if you want any help, these people are there always to help the people from Kerala in all aspects. So they are doing a great service, and as our senior vice president said, during COVID period, they help the people of Kerala in a big manner. So we have to salute them. And I take this opportunity to wish all the people, all the members, all the students, and all the guests to this function. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, the President, Dr. V.M. Xavier, for the presidential address and also for detailing the activities of TMA, future activities of TMA. Now for introducing the chief guest, may I invite the Honorable Joint Secretary of TMA, Engineer Francis George.
Thank you, Gio. My name is Francis George. I'm the Joint Secretary of Thrissur Management Association. It's a pleasure for me to introduce Dr. Sajimon Antony. I call him Saji. We've been friends for quite a while now, since my days in the US. I met Saji around 2006 in New Jersey in a Malayali church. And the very first day itself, there are certain characters that you really like the very first time you meet. And Saji is one of them. He's a very friendly person, very approachable. And what I found in due course is that he has an uncanny ability to drive consensus between people who have opposing views. And I think that's what really drove him to the position that he's currently in as General Secretary of FOKANA. Now, speaking about FOKANA, it is, like Will rightly pointed out, it is the apex body. It's the umbrella organization of all the Malayali associations in North America, that is US and Canada. And again, as Vinod rightly pointed out, if there are 10 Malayalis, there'll be 11 organizations, 11 associations in US. So it's not an easy job to drive consensus between and coordinate activities among all these different organizations. So he has a tremendous task at hand, and he has done a good job. That's why he is continuing to be the office bearer. He was the treasurer last year, and he is the general secretary of FOKANA this year. So FOKANA does a lot of activities on the social front and the cultural front for promoting socio-cultural activities in US, especially among the youth. FOKANA is also active in welfare initiatives meant for Malayalis. The latest on that front is the Rajagiri Health Card, which was launched by Shailaja Teacher a couple of weeks back, the former Minister of Health of Kerala State. If you go to any FOKANA event, it is dotted by the presence of celebrities, Malayali celebrities. So I needn't explain FOKANA more to you. Now, Sajimon, as I said, I've known him from around 2006. He came to US in around 2005. He was in India until then. So he knows how the system works in India, and he also knows by now how the system works in US. And he's the right person to compare both these systems. Now, while in India, he was with Novartis Pharmaceuticals, and he was one of the star salespersons of Novartis. And he was also nominated to the Global Leadership Program of Novartis. So that speaks volumes about his selling skills and people skills. After coming to the US, he has been involved in a number of things, right from insurance sector to real estate to pharmaceuticals and healthcare. And he has succeeded in all of them. He is also an anchor or a panelist on News 18 channel. He covered the US elections, which happened last year, towards the end of last year. And he's also appears as a host on programs once in a while on other channels like Asianet and Kairali and 24 News. He's a moderator for many Malayali programs there. So in short, he's a very versatile person. What he's going to talk about today is a comparison between the education systems in India as well as in US. Now, if you know about the peculiarities of both these countries, it's 180-degree apart. In India, we believe in strict social and family hierarchy. In US, They believe in nuclear families with liberty and individuality. We believe in our system has rote learning. There in the US, it is more about developing the creativity and the confidence of the kids. Now, there are plenty of differences like that. Let me not go into the details. Now, both these systems have their own bearings on how we think, act, and engage with the people around us. And that's what Sajimon is going to touch upon today. So over to Sajimon.
Platform is open for Dr. Sajimon Antony.
Good evening, Senior Vice President Dr. V.M. Xavier, Vice President Dr. Paul Thomas, TMA Secretary Honorable Pradap Varki, and my dear friend and Joint Secretary of TMA, Mr. Francis George, Mr. Vinod Manchala, and all the TMA shareholders and members, a very warm good evening from US studio. Thank you for the kind words, Francis, and all other people mentioned about that. Let me begin with this by saying that, you know what, I'm a simple guy, hailed from a simple area, a common place, a common village called Karimpani. So nothing much big, but I believe in that simplicity. So I also would like to mention at this time, congratulate two of the individuals who is a part of TMA. One is none other than Dr. Paul Thomas for their outstanding achievement of Manappuram Finance. I heard that, you know, during even this pandemic time also, that company has grown, shows a profit of 16.5% on last quarter. And I think it's a great achievement. Also, I would like to mention Dr. Paul Thomas, the MD of ESAF Bank. They gained 28% of growth on the last quarter, even in the pandemic time. I think it's a big credit and the credibility for this TMA association. On behalf of FOKANA and me personally, I would like to congratulate both these individuals. And I know that when I say Thrissur means, ആദ്യം മനസ്സിൽ വരുന്നത് നമ്മുടെ പൊളിറ്റിക്കൽ ക്യാമ്പയിനിൽ ആക്ടർ സുരേഷ് ഗോപി പറഞ്ഞു പോണക്ക് തൃശ്ശൂർ ഇങ്ങ എടുത്താലോ എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞ ആ ഒരു സെന്റൻസ് ആണ് ആദ്യം മനസ്സിലേക്ക് വരുന്നത്. Maybe the reason is that when we say Thrissur, two things pop up in the mind immediately. One is the banking sector. The second is the gold sector. And I would say that Thrissur is the real capital of, the economic capital of Kerala. Most of the billion-dollar companies, that has been, starting, that idea is coming from that specific area. So that right DNA is there, which means, now I have a palpitation to go forward. I'm dealing with, so today I am not here to teach you anything. Rather, I would like to learn from you so many things, because I believe that each interactions can be, oh, one second. Sorry about that. So today's topic is a very controversial topic. At the same time, it is a very interesting topic too. Education, the Indian way or the Western way. Malayalam പറഞ്ഞാൽ കടലിൽ പോയി ഒരു കല്ലെറിഞ്ഞ പോലെയാണ് ആ ടോപ്പിക്. It's a vast topic. It's honestly a $1 trillion question whether which way is the right way, the Western way or the Indian way. Because the Indian education system as a universities were in existence since 5th century. We all heard about Takshashila University and Nalanda University. People from all over the globe, people used to come down there and study there. But that was a story back then. Fast forward to 2021. Where are we standing now? What's our current status of education system there and here? How can we compare? Is it comparable or is it worth to compare? Let's see. When we talk about the Western education system, you can see that rich Indian families have been sending their kids to Western education system since the day of independence, or maybe even before that. Leaders, our own great leaders like Mahatma Gandhi, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, Jawaharlal Nehru, or Dr. Manmohan Singh, or the business tycoon like Ratan Tata, Indira Nooyi, or the legends in literature like, the Salman Rushdie or Jhumpa Lahiri, or the Bollywood heartthrob like Ranbir Kapoor, all those people studied abroad. Similar way, there are so many great Indian leaders, they exclusively studied in India too. For example, our own late president, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, Atal Bihari Vajpayee, the late president, late prime minister of India. So in both sides, we will see ample of great leaderships, ample of great examples to substantiate the claim that which way is the right. So maybe it is more confusing now. By the way, what about me? I went to St. Vincent English Medium School, Palai, the best school of at that time. Went to IIT in Chennai, moved to IIT in Delhi, then getting a doctorate from Harvard University, US. Is that true? That's a joke. That was my wish. But I went to a simple Malayalam medium school in St. Aloysius School in my own native hometown. Then to St. Thomas College, Palai, a moderate college, got a job, moved to North India. I studied I started my career as a pharmaceutical rep, and I'm proud to be that. So I feel the differences at that time, the class system which is existing in Indian education system or Indian work culture. Then I took some management while doing my job. Then, as my dear friend mentioned, I got an opportunity to go to Singapore and learn a couple of things from there, coming back to India, spending some time there, then moving back to US. So I feel like that my education was my life journey. What I mean is, a small town village boy, Karimpani, to college education, kind of a town like Pala, then spending some time there, then moving to North India. I got an opportunity to travel all across North India, like Bhopal, Raipur, Jabalpur, Nagpur, Mumbai, and all those things. Because whenever we get in a promotion, we have to move to some other location. That's normally the part of the, normally the system works there. So all those was a lifetime experience for me. I learned a lot, many things during that time, maybe when I'm comparing myself to what I learned in my school days or college days. So what's the real model? Is there any real model? Now there's three perspectives that are there. One is the Western education system, then the Indian education system. When we discussing about an education system, then we always try to compare ourselves with that elite class. But we tend to forget that there are some talent, there is talents and skills which is not coming or which we are not seeing properly in other areas too. So this is also true that as every individual has their own strength and weakness. Every government has their own strength and weakness. Every country has their own strength and weakness. So as I believe that every system, every education system has also their own strength and weakness. So let's spend a few minutes or few seconds, a few minutes on what is the strength of Indian education system. In the beginning, I mentioned that in the Nalanda and Takshashila. That's not a story, that's a real thing. India and the concept of the university was there. So we, as a proud Indian, we always can be proud forever for that factor. But at the same time, we have to put those kind of things in today's perspective too. So I would say the strength of the Indian education system is start from the basic, the free elementary education. That's a huge deal. The second is the second strength of the Indian education system, I would say, the bombardment of theoretical knowledge. It's all about theory. One would say, or one would argue that sometimes it's a negative aspects too. But however, for the sake of saying that now, we should emphasize that particularly the Indian education system or in Kerala's education system, or maybe if I can say by and large, the Asian culture, that is much more focusing on the theory side. Then another important aspect is that we give more values to our cultures and morals. Even though the latest, the trends which is coming, or the news is coming from India or Kerala is not that encouraging in terms of morality in different aspects. However, by and large, we can say that when we compare ourselves with the rest of the world, our moral is in a high standard. Then I would say the reservation system. When I say the reservation system, few of you may be laughing. The reason I am saying in the reservation system is a strength. In 60s and 70s and 80s and 90s, that was a way of life for the poor people or the underprivileged people. That system helped to lift those underprivileged segments. Even though it was based on a caste system, that is questionable or debatable whether that was a true approach or not. But in 60s and 70s and 80s and 90s, it really helped our education system. Then I would say the hard work. Indians are known for hard work, particularly Malayalis are really, really hard work. Jokingly, I say, the other day to one of my friends' group that, Malayalis, Indians, not only have a fat belly, we all have a fat, burning belly. That burning belly, I will repeat that, burning belly. That's a trigger. That's a hard work. That's the, that's a lot of, that's in a big volume, honestly speaking. That brings innovation. That sharpens our skills. These are the strength of our Indian education system. So like I mentioned in the beginning, nothing is perfect, right? Am I perfect? Are you perfect? We all have, there are areas of weaknesses which needs to be strengthened further to sharpen the skill further. So I would say, on my perspective, one of the weakest area of Indian education or education system is the absence of counseling and overemphasis of religious aspects or the politics. When we compare, here, those who studied here or they have some experience in the Western world, they know that starting from the elementary school to the middle school, to the high school, to the college, counseling or the counselor is a part of a curriculum, or there is a one assigned qualified professional who always there in the school and the universities to guide the students. Maybe in our Indian system, it is lacking. Maybe we don't have the budget for that. Maybe that's the reason. Or here, that is a huge deal. Second, the weakness of Indian education system is the heavy emphasis on score and the marks, percentages. We jokingly say that when we have community events here, when one Indian family or Malayali family meet the other Malayali families, they are more curious about the other kids' score or the percentage or the stream they are doing, whatever, So they are very judgmental about that. They are very much concerned about that score. They always say that, see that George's son or the, Mr. Sukumaran's daughter, look at that. They have 90% or 95%. They keep asking about that, maybe culturally inbuilt there, even though we all came from there to here, still that is inbuilt there. So I would say these kind of environment, the absence of counseling, heavy emphasis on the scores and the marks, reservation kind of things, and all these kind of things, I can say that that's why the system kills the students. I will explain what I mean by that. The another weakness is the flock mentality. In India, in Kerala, everyone wants their son or daughter to be a doctor or engineer or a lawyer. Even though the God doesn't produce each individual like that way. So that's a flock mentality. Another point which I would like to mention is the budgeting. In India or in Kerala, the government is spending 2 or 3% of the GDP for the education. So maybe that support is not enough. Then another aspect of the weakness is that it's all about studies, nothing else. No other life for the Malayali students or Indian students in most of the education environments. We all, emphasize it's all about study, 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 study. And we would say that, in order to get a good basic, or a good foundation, we all need that. But I feel like that somewhere we need to have a balance on that. Now, these are the peculiar features of the Indian system or the Malayali system. Now, let's spend a few minutes about the Western world. I feel the real positive strength of Western education is that active student participation. It's not about the memorization. Memorization, in the Western world, they give a very least importance to that. Instead, all the students are encouraged for the active participation. Then the independent student learning. Teachers never encourage the students to memorize the thing repeatedly. Instead, they all act as a mentor. They all act as a coach. They all act as a counselor. They provide the resources so that the students gain the knowledge out of those resources. They can sharpen the skills, accordingly. The other strength of, the Western education or in US or not Western countries are the choices. We have so much choices. In Indian system, we are colorblind to a couple of fields like medical, doctor, engineer, or lawyer, a couple of things, whereas we have a variety of programs here. I'm just picking one segment that is just for the purpose of debating medical. When we say medical, the word we said, okay, the doctor. But when we come into the Western countries, there are a variety of subsegments too, like physiotherapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, dental courses, nursing courses. When we say nursing courses, Malayalis think, not Malayalis, most of the Indians believe that, it's all about the bedside nursing. There is a hell lot of opportunities there in the segment. Management segment is there, different fields are there. So these are the underexploited area of our Indian education system, whereas West found that this is really good. So they already expanded in that segment. I'm just giving you one example on that, okay? Then another thing, the counseling, I mentioned that, in India, we don't have a council or a counseling pattern or a culture, we have it. But here, there is a structured way of doing those things are there by the qualified people or qualified professionals. Then another thing I would say that in Indian system, most of the times we may find that, the student ratio may be 30:1 or maybe 40:1, maybe 28, something like that. Different universities, colleges follow different things, but by an average, we can see that that's a range going on. Versus in the Western countries, that is ranging from 18:20 or 14:18 or 18:22. That is the ratio we are saying that. Then in terms of the budget, when we spend there 2 or 3% of the GDP, the Western countries spend 6 or 7 or 7.5 or 8% of the GDP. So more budget or allocation is there. These are the plus side. Most importantly, I would say that the Western education system has the right balance. In a few moments ago, before I mentioned that it's all about study there in India or in Kerala, but it's all about the life balance. Here, the people believe that, the students believe that, the families believe that, there is a life even though they are students. They live. So the education spreads. I mean, the period. For example, a typical way of presenting our case, like, 12th grade, then the college graduation or the master's, bachelor's, then master's, like that. We don't go to work because we don't have a culture or a pattern of applying those things into real life or, a pattern like that in our system there. But in here, the culture or the system allows to stop at the 12th grade or the bachelor's Then they may work and find a family and settle and live their life, and maybe spend a couple of years. They may come back and go back to the college, things like that. So it's all about the balance here. Maybe it's a necessity or our economic environment that is forced us to continue the education until we come to the peak. And most times our setup doesn't allow that. Once we start working, it is difficult to gain more degrees or qualification thereafter, because our system itself is very, there are hardships are there. So maybe that's the reason. I know that when I was working and doing some studies, it was really hard because our work never ends there, right? Most of the time it say that, 9 to 4 or 9 to 5, but most of the private jobs, it never ends. Even on the weekends and Saturdays, Sundays, it is open for business. So the culture we have is that. But here, if it is Monday through Friday, it is Monday through Friday. No business related activities on Saturday and Sunday. So people may have time. Then the colleges and universities have flexibilities like evening courses, day courses, weekend courses. We can take 1 semester now, 2 semester now, then maybe we can hold for a year or 2, they can come back, then we can do the things. So those kind of flexibilities are there in the Western system. Maybe it's a lack in the Indian system. So don't get me wrong that, everything is green and glossy and rosy here when I say the Western education. So one fit solution, everyone, take a ticket and come here and enjoy the life. And because that's the only way to the heaven. No, don't get me wrong. This system is also having its own weaknesses. One of the weaknesses here is, as I mentioned before, too many options here, that's a plus. Most of the time, it's a -2 here. When our kids or the students get too many options, they're a little bit confused where to go. So the pattern which I see here after 12th grade, many people are not that targeted as the Indian kids back there. They may go for a kind of a fluid situation, undecided group. They may go to the college, first year they spend like that. Then they may decide whether to go to the science field or the engineering field or the art field or any other different field. So too much freedom, too much flexibility, sometimes it's a negative. So that's what we are facing here. I would say, I have a classical example, we all are Malayalis, I believe most of them, right? So everyone know Puttukutti, right? Who doesn't like Putta and Kadala, right? So I have an example to show that, So this is the Puttukutti cylinder, right? Puttinu vendi namakku endha vendathu? Nalla ari venam. Pinne ichiri thenga akki idum, alle salt akki idum mix cheythu nammal alle nammade wife allengil parents alle nammal thanne adu right pot il veche steam cheythu. So idinte pratyekatha ennu parnu kiyal only couple of holes on the top only, on the top lid. There is no other holes anywhere else. Now put this in the perspective of our education system. Few months back, I read an article, some Malayali, one great guy who invented 60 different types of put. Until then, I wasn't believed that only 1 or 2 types of put. So what does it say to me is that, let's say if you put the same ingredient and steam it, end of the 4th year or 6th year, in the Indian way of education, they all want some engineer. All the Puttukutti is delivering the engineers. Irrespective of our societies need that, irrespective of their skill set, irrespective of that particular individual's wish, we are producing it. One of the reasons is that we want my son or daughter to be a doctor or engineer. It is plain as simple. We don't even bother whether they have the right skill or not. Maybe they have a right skill in certain different area, but we always try to undermine that. Maybe due to the pressure we get from the community. Maybe the peer pressure. Maybe the system, the class system which is existing in our country. The class system saying that, okay, when you say, oh, you are a doctor or you are an engineer or you are a lawyer, that is high standard. Or when you are saying something, in some other field, it is not considered as a high standard. So imagine a situation, this same puttagutti, we are putting the same ingredients, have multiple holes here and there. This cylinder multiple hole the steam will come out from here, 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 and that. So, jokingly, many times we cannot expect a different result by putting the same ingredients, even though we are putting in the same, applying the same logic there. Each person is different. They may need something different. അങ്ങനെയാണെങ്കിൽ മാത്രമേ ആ മലയാളി, അദ്ദേഹത്തിന്റെ പേര് ഞാൻ മറന്നുപോയി, 60 തരത്തിലുള്ള ഡിഫറെന്റ് പുട്ട് അദ്ദേഹം ഉണ്ടാക്കി ലോകത്തിൽ റെക്കോർഡ് ഉണ്ടാക്കി എന്നാണ് ഞാൻ ന്യൂസിൽ വായിച്ചത്. Now, Western education systemത്തിന്റെ വീക്ക്നെസ്സിനെ പറ്റിയായിരുന്നു ഞാൻ സംസാരിച്ചു വന്നിരുന്നത്. The other point here is that you may be thinking that all the teachers has been taken care very well here. In the Western education system, teachers are less motivated. We are living in a country, their economy is really good, world champion in most of the fields. Great example. We all look forward to Western countries to learn so many things, but on this area, that's a weakness. And I was wondering, I wondered many times, why is it so? So one of the reasons is that school education or school system budget comes from the individual township, which we don't have there in Kerala or India. So let's say the town which I live is economically wealthy, more tax revenue is coming. Out of that tax revenue, 60 to 70% is allotted to the school system. So they have so many good programs, teachers have been taken care very well, so many counselors and all other subsegments, everything is awesome. But imagine if we are living in an underprivileged town, then the situation is different. The resources, less resources coming, because we have in India, and we have a federal system, but still some differences. Federal government has some influence on the budgeting and the policies, but state government has its own policies and the budgetings. And when it is coming to the school system, this local government or the local body or the township governs it too. That has a huge impact on that. So maybe we can call this the Panchayati Raj concept, which we introduced in Kerala or in India a few years back. Now, another important issue is that the negative aspect or the weakness of our system is the race and the color issues. We can link that economical status, which I just mentioned, to this issue, race and color issue. We do have back in India too that issue, but in a different words, caste and the class system. Here it is, there is no caste and the class system. Instead, it's the color and the race issue. Then the next one is the expense. If you take a calculate and types few numbers, you will know that the education in India, what we are getting is much cheaper compared to the Western education. Even then, people try to come here and then gain knowledge. Maybe the important reason that that system gives a lot of independence. Earlier, formal education was supposed to meet the industrial revolution of the time. But today, it's not meeting with the current societal needs. I believe it's a common problem here and there. Maybe I can see that pyramid situation, right? In India, real pyramid goes like this. We believe and we emphasize on the foundation, so that we get it right, the pyramid will go the way it's supposed to go. Sometimes we feel that it's a reverse pyramid scenario. I would say overall education must lead to independence. Education is achieved by keeping the right balance. We have to learn to live and enjoy the current world. But at the same time, we should be preparing to face the future challenges too. I would say try to be a leader, not the follower. Even if you are the follower, then follow the right leader, follow the right concept, follow the right ideology. I truly believe that God has created everyone equal, but with different abilities and skills. So no skills are less. So spread the positive message and learn to respect. I don't think that there is any specific formula which is fit for all. When it is coming to individual, each individual is different. Some may thrive in our education system back in Kerala in India. Some may get more exposure, more independent thinking, more innovation when they move to the Western culture. So there is not one formula which fit into everyone. Like the great legend Swami Vivekananda once said, if you can't think about the whole world, at least think about the country which you belongs to. If you can't think about the whole country, at least think about the state which you belongs to. If you can't think about the state which you belongs to, at least you think about the district which you belongs to, the community you belongs to. Even you can do that, at least think about you and think about your family. That will create a ripple effect. So do our part. Let's cause that ripple effect and keep up the spirit and the positivity. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sajimon Antony, for that wonderful speech. Over to President for the comments.
Dr. Sajimon Antony, it was an excellent talk. You had a really good comparison between the Indian system and the Western system. We know in India, especially in Kerala, the influence of political parties and the influence of religious heads are ruining the education system. And here we don't have the mentoring system, we don't have the counseling system, and the students are not exposed to the practical way of doing things. They are just by hearting whatever they have studied and they are writing the exam. And from your experience or from the Western experience, it is not the right way. Anyway, this is an insight to the student community. A number of students are attending this. And I think they will understand the reality and they will change their attitude and their wish to study in a fruitful manner. So that was an excellent topic and excellent talk. I congratulate you once again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, President. Now, it is the platform is open for interactions. You can chat or you can directly ask questions.
Dr. Sajimon, it was a very, very interesting. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Yeah, it was a very interesting comparison because, I was educated in India and I spent a lot of time abroad. So I could very easily follow your comparison and the reasons. Now, President Obama once mentioned that American children are not learning science and mathematics. And if they continue like that, the jobs will be taken by children from India and China. And my own daughters, they both are in the US. They tell me that a lot of children go for psychology and things like that, ignoring real basic science. Why is it that? Is that true? Is there such a trend happening? Or
Yeah, that, to some extent that is true. I would say that. I also witnessed that thing whenever a US politician facing the audience or the public, they always mention about two countries, India and China. And the next word is STEM, the science, technology, engineering, and the medical aspect, the STEM. So maybe due to the, too many flexibilities, too much freedom, too much independence, students are misutilizing that, oh, STEM, it is difficult, it's hard for me. I have other options to thrive here. That is part of the reason. Second reason, when we talk about the, the second generations over here, they are not looking for the basic necessities. I know, I will just, take a minute on that. When I came to US and met my vice president, Mr. Larry Novaris, we came, like, oh, we are from India, we are, well-educated, Kerala, 100% literacy, and, all those kind of things. But in few moments, I realized that, they are not interested to hear about those kind of stories much. And he reasoned that, when we look, we always look upward, not downward. So we as an Indian, 10 years, 50, I know India phenomenally grown in terms of all sectors. I know that's a global leader now, but I'm talking about 15 years, 2005. So when we, at that time, when we as an Indian or Malayalis, when we look upward, we will see the Western countries like US and the UK and the France and Germany like that. So that, inspiration is there. But it's not necessarily the same way the Americans think. They don't have to look down to learn so many things because they feel like that they already on the peak. So this STEM thing is an adjustment. Every system needs an adjustment. Maybe too much leverage, too much flexibility, too much independence. That is the time of an adjustment here to emphasize the STEM. And they quote Indian system, Asian system, or Chinese system as a classical example to influence, energize the base for that.
See, my daughter was doing her PhD in Colombia, and there were 8 students in her batch. 2 were Indians, 3 were Koreans, I think 2 Chinese and 1 European. There was not a single person in the business school PhD program from America. I was wondering, what type of thing. Anyway, thank you very much. It was a good explanation.
Thank you. That was a good question.
Thank you. And there is a query from Dr. Jayashankar. So what about the difference in value systems, how it influences education?
What is the question? What is the difference?
What about the difference in value system difference? How it influences education?
I'm sorry, I interrupted you. The value system, how it influenced what?
How it influenced education.
Oh, okay. Historically, we can say that Indians inherited a lot of values and the culture, rich culture, right? It doesn't mean that people who lives here is cultureless. It's all how we see it. Different people, people see the same culture in a different way. It is up to their background or the cultural bring up to make a judgment on that. So if the culture is good enough or the education value gives more value, absolutely his answer is yes. Here is, it is there. But, both continent or both countries see it in a different way. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Any other queries?
Dr. Saji, this is Ramakrishnan. I've got a small thing. If you really look at it, once Dr. Narayanamurthy said, if my children doesn't get an admission in IIT India, I can put them on a full scholarship in some of the American universities. Now, do you think the problem is in the education system or we have failed in scaling it up?
I would say we failed in multiplying it. So we had Nalanda and Takshashila before, then we have all the IITs there. if you think we have more than 1,000 universities there in India. If you compare that numbers with the Western countries, they may not have that many universities. But we forget the fact that these 1,000 universities are for 1.4 billion people population. So the ratio, when we are thinking about the ratio, that plays an important role into that. And in terms of the scholarship, that is true. So for that matter, I have to specify on the US education, right? I am not sure if I'm an extra super caliber guy from US, if I get a scholarship in Indian perspective. But it is really possible in the other way, vice versa. You're an extra caliber student, if they prove, if the American system identified that caliber, they invite that. They spend money on that. That may be one of the reasons, maybe so many talents are moving from our systems to here. They have that independent, they sharpen their skill, they invent here. So the ownership goes to here. So that may be also the reason, if you think about the ratio or the volume of patents or innovation which is happening in this country, it's not necessarily a white guy is doing that. Most of the time, it's an Indian dude is doing that, or an Asian dude is doing that, or someone else who's coming from Iran, in an adversary of this American country, or Russia, or some other countries. So America culturally or traditionally invite the talents from all across the globe. They keep an open platform. They, let them thrive in this, country or the community. That allows that individual to bring up more technology, more innovation, more skill to this country. So that thinking, maybe if I come, I'm just giving an example, not to insult anybody. Now we always say, if you see the Malayalam newspaper, we all say Bengali, 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 right? So we don't accept our own brother from a different state in our own neighboring state. I mean, we all talk about that, right? If you get somebody coming from Tamil Nadu, Namal Parayum, Madrasi Vandu, right? So the acceptance or tolerance level in our system or in our community is much less. That is historically is like that. However, if here, let's say if I am coming, I'm an extraordinary gem personality or skill, they identified it. They don't care my skin is brown or black or yellow. I look like an Indian. I eat dosha or Italy. They don't care about that. They focus on that skill set, and that will allow, they promote us. So that will allow me to invent more, innovate more. That's the way, I see the differences that.
I've got one follow-up question. Do you agree, because you have given an excellent comparison between the Western and Indian systems. Do you agree that Indian education system create a lot of generalists and an American education system create a lot of specialists?
Totally, I agree. I will give a classical example. Again, it is not to insult any system or any college or any individual. I was doing my BSc Zoology in St. Thomas College, Pale. 33 students was there. One day, my professor asked, he asked us to write down, what's your ambition or what you would like to be or whatever it is in a piece of paper. Out of the 33, most of the people, wrote some different ones. So 2 incidents was very vivid. And one of the guy, who's a very successful guy there back in that area now, he wanted to be a photographer, but he's sitting with me or other students, he's studying the zoology class. Then you will ask why I was there. Actually, I really wanted to become a doctor, a medical doctor at that time. So at that time in Kerala in 1993, only 515 seats was available. Like anyone else, I also, went and written that PMT test. Unfortunately or unfortunately, I was not that smart enough to get into that 500 group. So I dropped that idea there. But this guy, he really wanted to become a photographer. So I remember the movie of 3 Idiots movie, the Amir Khan played a major role there. So one of the guy, the parents insist him to be an engineer, but that guy doesn't want it to be an engineer. He wanted to be a wildlife photographer. So it was a classic example. Some of the movies, I feel like that, maybe the director knows about this kind of situation. So these are not isolated situations. These are, in many areas in our own household and community, we will see these kind of situation or repetition many times. So the generalization, that point, in 70s or 80s and 90s, the industrial revolution was happening in India, right? So there was a need of, a lot of engineers was there. So we produced more there, but sometimes, blindly we are producing it, knowing that or unknowingly, how much is needed, we don't know. So what we saw in 2000, early 2000s, most of the mechanical, again, not to insult to anybody, mechanical or civil or something like that, they didn't get the required or their dream job, right? They were running around. So most people switched from that segment to the IT segment at that in 2000 or in late 90s to accommodate that or get into that, that boom of IT sector, information technology sector. So many times our education system produced a generalized version, typically based on a class system. We inherited, or in our DNA, somewhere it is there. We all believe that only few segment or section is successful, rest all are failure. So we have a built-in concept is there somewhere in the system.
Thank you, Dr. Saji. Thank you.
Excuse me, sir. In India, people are, our teachers are not having industry experience. Whereas in some of the countries, they engage more people with industry experience. So the advantage is a mechanical engineer will be knowing more about mechanical part of it. And India, we don't have that. So do you think that difference is there in India, and the mucking up is more happening here to get more marks? What is your opinion on this?
That is very true. That's a nice question, a nice point, by the way. Maybe one of the reasons that the Western system or the economic development allows a student to do or participate in a practical aspects much more than our Indian system. Maybe our economy is not enough to substantiate that. When we are doing an engineering course for 4 years, our aim is we need to get a job next year or in 6 months or a couple of months, so that my family is depending on me. So we are forced to a situation to limit ourselves directly from theory to the job, and we are unknowingly or knowingly cutting or reducing the that practical aspects. But the Western system allows us, let's say 4-year college, we may go for 2 years, 1 year, or 6 months. And one of the reasons I see that, but the way the internship work here or the volunteership work here, like, in our situation, let's say if you are a doctor or an engineer or a lawyer or in that kind of a category, I'm just naming few of that. We will never ever allow our kids to be a cashier in a Dunkin' Donuts or in a petrol pump or in a grocery store, anything like that. Because culturally, we reserve those positions for some subclass people. However, here in this system, doesn't matter I'm the president of this country or the prime minister or I'm a successful doctor or engineer, whatever is that, my kids has an opportunity to do the volunteership when they reach 15 years old. So high school means 10th, 11th, and 12th. There is mandatory volunteership, internship, which every student has to go. No matter what is their background, how wealthy, filthy, rich they are, doesn't matter. They all have. So that work culture is built in right from the age of that 14, 15, and 16. Maybe the system allows, maybe in an Indian kind of situation, let's say I'm taking myself back to my own village like Karimbani or in Pala town. Do I have an opportunity to go and work and then go to college and come back to things? Maybe we don't have an opportunity there. But even if that opportunity is there, like Kochi, Thrissur, like the metro, good towns like that, there may be an opportunities there. But culturally, we won't let our kids to get that exposure. So that practical learning opportunity is right there, but we won't let that happen. We are letting that happen.
But, actually, in medicine, there is an internship. They have to compulsorily go to the hospital and work at least for 1 year before getting the degree. But for engineering, that is not there. And that is the reason we have engineers who have no knowledge of engineering. And the government is not looking to that part, and they are not taking interest in that. And the system has to change. Do you think so?
Absolutely, yes. I just not only blame the government for that, the private sector and the community also I equally blame for that matter. Like, most of you guys are living in Thrissur. Thrissur is a well-developed township in Kerala. Or somebody live in Kochi or Trivandrum or Kozhikode like that, there are a lot of opportunities there, but our culture doesn't allow to do that. Even though, we know
an
that
electrical engineer cannot repair a fuse. He cannot put a fuse. He's not even having that much knowledge. That means he is not put to the realistic scenario. He is not taught, the technicals to that extent. And even the teachers don't have that knowledge. That is the most unfortunate thing you will see if you go to them.
Yeah, one of the reason, I am totally agreeing with you. One of the reason is that there is a lack of apprenticeship in India. So let's say, you can become an engineer there. I don't know exactly what's happening now. I'm talking about 10, 15 years back thing, so you don't have to certified by a board to say that you are an engineer there. Or if you are a, any other, teacher or a, lawyer or any other, yes, lawyer has a, bar licensing exam, and I know that. But most of our education segments doesn't need a license there. So here, in order to be a manicure, simply right? They also need a license. A landscaper cutting the grass on the lawns, they need a license for that. A builder, they need a license for that. A plumber, electrician, everyone need a license, not just the college degree or diploma. That degree or diploma itself doesn't land them a job there. In order to get a job there, they have to do certain hours, like 1,000 hours or 2,000 hours or 5,000 hours over a period of XYZ time. They have to do that and complete that. Then only they get the license. They get the license to do that job. Number one. Number two, there's a CE requirement. Like not only just for the medical or engineering course, whatever the class, whatever the segment is there, everyone needs to be having a CE requirement, credit requirements once in 2 years. So in order to, when we go for a licensing renewal, the first thing they're going to ask, do you, completed the CE requirement? So those kind of systems are not there in practice in our system back there in India. So that is one of the major reasons. Electrical engineering pass or fuse petano, handle chiyano, ariyan patatadu, into a major reason.
Dr. Sajimon, just take a correction. These days, certification is required in almost each and everything, and continuous education has become essential for all professions. Just an update. Thank you.
Which is a good step.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. There is a query, two queries actually from the same line from two students. One is Julia and one is Adulya. And the query is, how does this Western education change the attitude towards education in India? And what is the benefits from the introduction of the Western education in India?
I would say,
you understood that?
Yeah, 20 years back when we say the globe was a real globe, right? In our dreams, it is difficult to dream a globe or a universe. Nowadays, I would say the globe is this. This simple cell phone changed the whole world. I don't have to explain to you or anyone about the Western world or Western education. And no one needs to explain to me about the Indian cultural values or education. This technology changes a lot now, so it is interconnected. Whether we like it or not, that influence is going to be there. the Western influence is going to be there in India. The Indian influence is going to be coming over here too. And that's why, before we mentioned about that STEM thing, President Obama mentioned about the India, China, STEM and things like that. So that influences is there. It is, on both ways. It is, I believe it's the beginning of, the World Trade Organization or the trade agreements which happened in 80s. And I mean, always it is there, but most of the thing which is vivid to us, common people, is there in 80s and 90s, right? So if I am negotiating a technology back to you in India there, I feel like that, okay, I'm at advantage now, right? And I'm going to, so I would say that, that bridge, when I initiate that negotiation or an agreement or trade agreement, this is US here and India is here, right? Down there. But over a period of time, Indians realize that, no, this is not the way it should be working. So we bargain and we develop ourselves. One day it is going to be equal. Then this world realizes that, oh man, until then they were looking down. Now they are looking, eye to eye. It is difficult to manage with them. So they have to innovate further, right? Now, well, lately I can say that, everyone thinking that, the Western world thought that, every time for the rest of the time, always this imbalance is going to be there, but it's not true. Sometimes India, like countries, developing countries, go up and they dictate their segment and they dictate the Western countries too. So it is a, Malayalam parayile, oru paala vittu kayinjal angottu ingottu undu ennu paranju konakku thanneyanu aa oru influence varunathu.
Yeah, thank you, sir, for the wonderful speech and excellent interaction thereafter. Hope, I think we at TMA, we also conduct a lot of employability skill development programs in the management area. Hope we may join hand in hand with FOKANA for future events like employee development programs. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. And we quickly move into another pleasant event in the agenda, which is the much awaited declaration of the result of 11th TMA HICON business plan contest. May I invite our treasurer and our chairman of the project committee, Chartered Accountant Manoj Kumar.
Thank you, Gio. Good evening. It's a really pleasant task. Thank you, Mr. Sajimon Antony, for a wonderful presentation. I believe the students over here has been really enlightened with your kind words. Now, my topic, All India TMA HICON Business Plan Contest for the Young Entrepreneur Awards, is a flagship program of TMA launched in 2010 to bring out path-breaking entrepreneurs through a meticulously planned competition program. Prize money is sponsored by HICON India Limited. Really happy that visionary founder of HICON India and past president of TMA, Engineer Christo George, has been supporting this event for the last 11 years. Engineer Christo George, I believe he is here. Thank you, Engineer Christo George, for supporting us. This year, TMA HICON Business Plan Contest was organized along with Nehru School of Management, and it carries a prize money of first prize, carries a prize money of rupees 60,000, second prize rupees 20,000, third prize rupees 10,000, and we have 3 consolation prizes of rupees 3,000 each. We received 19 business plans and our esteemed team of judges comprising of Mr. T. N. Ramaswamy, Engineer Anand Menon, and Engineer Emma Gopalakrishnan took great efforts in selecting the winners, as the plans submitted by the students were all very good. The final presentation of the business plan contest was done online in a virtual mode on May 22nd. I would like to thank Engineer Christo George for sponsoring the prize money, the eminent judges, the TMA office bearers, and Dr. Sheila Srivastava and Mr. Sriranjan Menon of Nehru School of Management for their efforts. Winners of the event are, I'm coming from the consolation prizes. The third consolation prize goes to Dr. John Mathai Center School of Management Studies. The team members, Anashwara V, Anchana Prabhakaran, Ashwin Shivadas, Aishwarya P. The business plan product was FOKANA. The second consolation prize goes to Sahoday Institute of Management Studies, comprising of the team members Jane Joy, Jitu Shaji, M. Joel Joy, and Nihal Raj for the business plan Ecovaya. Consolation prize number 1 goes to College of Corporation and Banking, Kerala Agriculture University. The team members includes Mr. Rekshit Gowda, Jesna Matthew, Nikila K, and Jace Matthew for the business plan Feed to Food. And moving on to the main awards, the third prize goes to, again, to Sahridaya Institute of Management Studies. The team members, Ms. Aditi Anup, Lakshmi KS, Sajish Alish, U. Vanisri for the business plan Edron 360. Second prize, again, goes to Sahridaya Institute of Management Studies. Team members comprising of Nafia PS, Devasurya Muralidharan, Jayesh Jairam, and Aruna PS for the business plan on Medicomatic Admin. And for the grand first prize goes to Naibunya Business School, comprising of the team members Joel George, Sharath P. Nair, Fatima Noora, and for the product business plan Brand Analyst. Congratulations and best wishes to all the winners, and to those who could not succeed this time, wishing you the better luck next time. Thank you. Over to you, Gio. Thank you.
Thank you, CA Manoj Kumar. I would invite President for the comments. Xavier, sir.
Yes, sir. Dr. Sajimon, sir, are you present? Dr.
Yes,
Sajimon.
I'm here.
Yeah. Sir, here a lot of students are attending your program. Since you are the General Secretary of FOKANA, how can you help the student community, especially in Kerala, to build a new career in their life, to fulfill a new dream in their life? Being a General Secretary of FOKANA and being a person in the developed country, how you will be able to assist the students from Kerala?
Yeah, that's a good question. FOKANA 1983 തുടങ്ങിയതാണ്. Since 1983 to 2021, 38, 39 years now, we are consistently working for the benefit of Malayali families, not only in US, Canada, and most of our activities are focused on the Malayalis in Kerala itself. Two of the latest things which I would like to emphasize on that, these are the programs. One is the Malayalam Academy, because all these associations based on the cultural aspects of our community. So in order to boost that, we have a Malayalam Academy which provides ample of information, course specifics to teach and learn about our own mother tongue. That is one thing. And then second thing, I think my dear friend Francis George mentioned about that in the introductory remark, FOKANA Rajagiri Health Card. That is just beyond that. Actually, the second program is that there is a student enrichment program. The student enrichment program allows the students to get a hands-on experience in multiple fields like engineer, medical, and all the other fields back in Kerala. This program is targeted technically for the FOKANA family members who are in North America, US and Canada predominantly. However, there is a third layer to that. That's a student exchange program. It's not that easy, but we are working on tirelessly on that. What does it mean? That the way we are sending students back to Kerala to learn about our culture, the practical aspects and all the things there, we want, our kids, the Malayali kids, to come from Kerala to US to get the exposure of, the Western education and the Western culture and things like that. So we are working on that. It's not, not yet started, because it's not that easy. Honestly, this COVID changed the whole world, right? So the idea has been debated and agreed, and then we started working towards that. Then unfortunately, the consulate and the visa center, everything get closed, and no new applications were taken care, nothing like that happening now. But in the future, we are working towards that program so that the Malayali families or the kids who are there in Kerala will get benefit of the Western education and the Western culture and the things like that.
Good.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, CA Manoj Kumar. Yeah, tell me, sir.
Yeah. So I take this opportunity to congratulate all the winners of TMA Heightened Business Plan Contest. To be frank, all the participants did well, but as I told you earlier, we can give only one first prize, only one second prize, only one third prize. So we couldn't give the prizes to all the students, but they did not be disappointed. Next year they will get a chance and they can again participate in the contest and they can win good prizes. Okay, once again, congratulations to all the winners.
Thank you, CA Manoj Kumar, for wonderfully conducting this entire project meticulously, and also our past president, Engineer Christopher George, who is a pillar behind this program and who has been sponsoring this program for the last 10 years. Thank you very much. Now we are coming to the end of this program. For proposing vote of thanks, may I invite Mr. Pradap Varki, the Managing Director of Sun Hospital and Honorable Secretary of TMA.
Thank you, Gio. I'd like to thank today's chief guest, Dr. Sajimon, Antony, General Secretary, FOKANA, for an inspirational talk. That was very, it was a good eye opener for everybody. Thank you very much, Sajimon. I'd like to thank President VM Xavier. I'd like to thank Engineer Vinod Manjula. I'd like to thank Francis George for introducing our chief guest. I'd like to thank Manoj Kumar for conducting this HiCon Business Award wonderfully. I'd like to thank Gio for being in the MC. And I'd like to thank Christopher George, friend of mine, CMD HiCon, who sponsored this prize for the last almost 10 years now. And I'd like to thank jury members for an excellent job. They've been doing it for some days now, although it is locked down, but they did their work very good, and they selected the right person. I'd like to thank all the past presidents, MC members, team members, and corporate members, and B school faculties, LM members, and students. And I'd like to congratulate all the winners. Thank you all. Thank you very much for this evening. Thank you very much.
No, you have to thank the sponsor also.
I like to sponsor, sorry, I'm very sorry for it. I like to thank Trinity Gold for sponsoring the event. Thank you very much.
Good.
Thank you, Pradap Varki, for that. And over to the President for the official adjournment of the meeting.
So once again, I thank Dr. Sajimon Antony for a thought-provoking talk today. And I declare that this meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much. And good night.
Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, thank you, Saji. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Welcome.